Welcome to the Church of Incarnation. We're delighted that you're joining us for this online celebration of a saint of the day, a saint that we celebrate in our church today on Thursday. And this is Bernard, Abbot of Clairvaux, who preached love for God without measure. He was the son of a knight and a wealthy landowner, lived near Dijon in France, and he was born in 1090, so in the medieval period. In 1113, he entered the Benedictine Abbey of Citeaux, and the family weren't entirely delighted with his choice of vocation, but nonetheless, Bernard managed to convince 4 of his brothers and 26 of his friends 2 years later to establish their own monastery at Clairvaux in 1115. There was a sense amongst Bernard and his friends that there was a looseness to current monastic practice and the expression and practice of the Benedictine rule. Monasteries had become too close to secular authorities. So when they set up Clairvaux in 1115, they wanted to practice a more austere, pure, if you like, expression of Benedictine spirituality. By 1140, things were going quite well, and there were 60 new Cistercian abbeys that were founded, inspired by Bernard. And with his writings, he became a dominant figure throughout Western Christendom and very influential, dying in 1153. And just as a note, nuns were accepted into the order following the Benedictine rule around 1200. What's notable, amongst many things, about Bernard is his following of the rule of St. Benedict. Written around 530, it's the basis of Western monasticism since it was written in the 6th century, and to this present day, it is the central tenet and influence in Western monastic practice. And interestingly enough, here in the Diocese of New York, we have Holy Cross Monastery, just north of Poughkeepsie on the west side of the Hudson River, a Benedictine community of men. And I suggest, if you have not checked out their website or paid a visit, by all means, go to Holy Cross Monastery online and check them out. They're a wonderful community of men that follow the Benedictine rule. And what's interesting about the rule of St. Benedict is in these uneasy times, there are a number of voices, notable number of voices in the Christian world, in the Western world, that think that if we were to begin to incorporate the rule of St. Benedict more into our own lives and our communal lives as Christians, then it may help us find more balance and peace in our everyday lives and develop and nurture our relationship with God and the divine. So let me just very quickly take you through some of the main tenets of the rule of St. Benedict, written in 530, and as I said, followed very much to this present day, and the backbone of Western monastic practice. Interestingly enough, this is really important, is the rule of St. Benedict was written for lay folks. It was written for people, not for clerics, but for people in everyday life. And the rule was meant to be approachable, and it was encouraged a number of things, not least that work beat idleness. Work was a good thing. Goodness comes out of work. Well-being comes out of work. Discipline comes out of work. And work in the service of God and Jesus helps a man or woman better their lives and avoid idleness. And in the spirit of that time, the thought is that idleness can lead to all kinds of behaviors that don't maybe quite fit the gospel message. And I think that's very much relevant today as it was back then in the 6th century. The Benedictine rule therefore calls for a stability of life, a balance. Humility, you won't be surprised to hear, is a virtue that's thoroughly encouraged, and an obedience to the communal body and the operation and healthy dialogue and construction of communities of faithful people. And within this order, within this discipline, becomes a harmony that enhances, again, our relationship with the Godhead. There also is a emphasis on prayer. Interesting enough, public prayer, communal prayer as the center of common life, and all prayer, all life is punctuated by prayer. So in our work and in our play, in our communal worship, in our sleep, in our preparations for different tasks and times of the day, prayer punctuates all life, and life punctuates all prayer. There was and remains a emphasis on mysticism, on the mystical, on the spiritual, on the mysteries, and an acceptance that the teachings on the Sermon of the Mount can be practically played out in real life. And with that, there remains an outreach to the poor is very important. A sharing of abundance of the monasteries and the Benedictine communities. The Benedictine rule did not explicitly call for a vow of poverty like the Franciscans, so the Benedictines do not take a vow of poverty, and therefore very often there's an abundance in Benedictine communities, and they are called to share that with the poor whenever they're possible. So a religious life within the spirit of the rule of Benedict is all to do with a social life, a community of men and women who live, work, pray, and eat together. And there is a suppression of worldly rank. And there is an encouragement of the sharing of possessions. That doesn't mean that monks do not have, or monastics do not own essential items in their cells that are necessary and aid their simple expression of life. But there is a deep communality to Benedictine monastic practice. And then finally, and you'll see this in the Holy Cross Monastery, just north of Poughkeepsie, and in many Benedictine communities, is that hospitality. Again, this emphasis on social interaction, hospitality, the welcoming of the stranger, the welcoming of the guest. And very much when these guests and strangers come into Benedictine communities, they are welcomed as if they are Jesus Christ, and brought in and fed and spoken to and encouraged to interact with the community. So there we are, the rule of St. Benedict, as lived out by Bernard. We thank that saint for his mission and witness throughout Western Christendom. We also thank him today for allowing us to rethink our relationship with monastic practice with a more mystical, spiritual element to our relationship to God. And as I said, many people think that if we were to more fully engage and learn more about this remarkable rule that's been around for 1,500 years and provides the backbone for Western monastic practice, then maybe lay folks, communities of faith in cities, in villages, in towns, all across this land may find real value and real peace and a new lasting harmony for those communities to live out and reach out to those in need and keep our lives rooted in prayer, humility, obedience, and communal love. So thank you, Bernard, and thank you for this wonderful remembrance of this saint on this day. Amen.